Good morning, everybody.
All right, sir.
How's everybody doing? Is everything good? Appreciate you coming in this morning. Try to make your time, try to make it efficient here in a short period of time. And finish up our section on club points. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, this is one of the 4 ways that you can use your star options on an annual basis. You know, we covered using it within the VSN. Now we're going to go in and show how we can utilize the ownership using club points. Now, just a general question, does everyone knows the conversion rate?
34.26.
To 1, correct. We don't really need to know that, Matt. The customer might ask for it. You can tell them it's not a big deal, but let them know we spent 3 years technologically to make it as close to an easy button transfer and value and all that as we possibly could, okay? But do remember, anytime that you take the core product that you own and you pollinate it into another section of this product, with the exception of interval, there is a slight degradation in value. Okay, so yeah, the conversion, you can say is Celsius and Fahrenheit, but then what I want you to imagine is all of the club point charts are like your Weston point charts. And you know that the one thing we don't go out of our way to do is to be opening up, 148,000 options for a 2-bedroom to go to Hawaii, right? Because that's unrealistic for most consumers that come in here to buy a $55,000 portfolio, right? But we all know inside there's other ways to do it. But that's why we have what do? We usually avoid those point charts at all costs, right? Where it's 1 through 52, Platinum Plus, that's not really an easy thing to show. So just imagine that. So my thing is, if a consumer starts with a select package or above, and they bring 4,000 club points into the system, they can do a lot of great things with it. My concern is when somebody buys a 37,000 or 44,000 options, and we all know it can do a lot of great things for them, but transferring 1,275 club points into this system, expect it to be a studio lifestyle, if that. So just be cautious to set expectations, because that's what this is about. If we're going to sell the product, we got to do it with as much integrity and leading the customer in the right direction as possible, okay? So when you do that, you can elect your star options, and you have to do so by September 30th of the prior year. So for 2026, if a customer wants club points by September 30th of this year, it's not automatic. They have to go in and elect for club points. You can convert a portion or all of them over, and you can even elect years in advance, 2 years in advance if you'd like to. Okay, so you can take care of that if you'd like to. Now, the good thing about the search engine is
2 years in advance, though, will still allow them to use them.
Because remember, you can borrow, so that's why, like right now, if you were doing for 26, you can do 27 also, because you can borrow from a year ahead of time in their system too. Okay, so it allows you to go out 2 years. The year that's coming up, and then the following year, it'll allow you to elect for.
And then the system would use the points that would expire first.
Mm-hmm. First in, first out, great
And they
question.
can elect, or they have to pay maintenance fees at a time.
Yeah, Marriott does make them pay the maintenance. But it pops it up. It'll say maintenance due X amount of dollars. Yeah, absolutely. Great questions, guys. Appreciate it. Now, you don't have to elect and then find out that an experience isn't available. What I love about it is through hyperlink technology, it'll actually, without having to create a second username and password like you do with Interval, you can go in, and this is actually what it looks like. If I log into my Marriott account, this is what it looks like. So it kind of translates you in. So now this right here, the difference being we're in club points now, and it's going to show all the destinations available. And if I just pick a couple that I know you can rely upon if you're showing these examples, is obviously places like Orlando. If you pick Grand Vista or Ocean Point in West Palm Beach, those are 2 good examples. The search engine's pretty cool. If we go to, let's say, September timeframe, and we do 5 nights, 2 people, or 4 people, doesn't matter. What I like about the search engine, it'll tell you all the villas that are available for that particular stay. So all the sizes are available. And then let's say you want to go to Ocean Point, you click on check availability. The cool thing is it shows the whole entire month and what's available for a 5-night stay checking in. And as you can see, everything's available for the entire month. And then you'll see the ranges in club points will be from 500 for the studio up to 2,300 for that same exact stay in a 3-bedroom. But product knowledge is important. That 3-bedroom, they only have one style 3-bedroom and it looks directly at the ocean. They're all ocean fronts. They are the most, it's what I own on paper. It is the most exclusive villa in Florida, in my opinion. The 3-bedroom oceanfront unit, I can't even believe what you see when you come in Florida. It's just an amazing setting without having to leave the peninsula. Guys, it's amazing. So that's kind of an example of what it looks like. Now on the fly, you can actually switch the month. So if you wanted to go, oh, sorry, I want to check the month before, you just hit the back arrow and once again, it'll show you every day that's available. And when you hover over a specific day, it's always going to start with the studio number, of course, right? And then you can click on it to open it up and kind of see what else is available, what the points would be. And then you'll notice that if you check in, what's that?
The $750 for the week?
That's for the 5-night stay, the 5 nights. But you notice if I go to Monday, it's $925. Go to Tuesday, it's $1,100. So if you stay for 5 nights, it's important to know that lead your customer the right way. Check in on Sundays, guys. Sunday, leave on Friday, avoid the villas on Fridays and Saturdays, and even a humble portfolio can maybe not get them a full week, but you could now be cooking. And that was my point, is to show some examples that if someone buys 51.7, in all honesty, in August, it's gonna get them a 2-bedroom for 5 nights. And that's Ocean Point, man. That's a popular resort, but that's not Hawaii, that's not Aruba. So I'm trying to give you an idea of what it takes for Marriott Vacation Club owners to go on these experiences. It just takes more. They have to buy more. And that's why they're paying more for the club. It might not be price per point, guys, but they have to pay to get in, man. Like the redemption rates. And that's all I'm getting after, man. So is it great? Yeah. For specific examples, it can be really great. But if you still have a consumer that's traveling 8 days and 7 nights and they're a traditional summer traveler or they're that type of traveler, this is not what they're going to be using, even to access the Marriotts, okay? So do know that even though I'm saying this, I'm saying this only because of the workaround that we'll cover next week with Interval. All right, and a lot of you know what that workaround is. So
What resort is that?
that's Ocean Point and Palm Beach Shores.
Okay.
About 2 hours from
That's
here.
what, like Singer Island?
Singer Island, yeah.
Are they connected?
Well, no. Singer Island is the actual island. Riviera Beach is on the mainland, right? So how it works is Ocean Point is down on the tip of the island, and then Oceana Palms is on Riviera Beach, which is a little bit more north of that.
So this would be a good way to show, at least just from seeing this, when they want to see availability, this would be a beautiful way to show availability. It's live inventory. Transition into Interval using points to show. So okay.
It's a combination.
Yeah, that'd be.
It's a simple way to go in just to give people the ideas. And I know SCT has a little calendar, but that's not availability.
Right.
There's a huge difference between telling someone what it would cost versus saying if they can go. And I'm telling you, if you stay in the Florida resorts, Grand Vista, the California property, same way that we do our search engines, you can show this thing and the points will work. I'm just saying now it's the same thing. If they want those higher end trips, they have to be more savvy in acquiring some of those. On top of the fact that, as I showed you guys on Monday, if I pull up Aruba, like we could go like month by month and there's no availability. And that's getting back to this, and then I'm gonna do this technicality, and it's more for people to be able to reference in the future too. Understand that very few people, in comparison to how many owners are in with Marriott Vacation Club, directly own the trust, right? So what the owner departments are trying to do is, like, I own a week still. I will never give it back to them. But when they get that, like if I trade my week back into them and I buy points from them, they now take that week and it's in the trust. And that inventory will always be there for someone to book 7 nights in a 3-bedroom, right? But the only other way they get access to inventory, if they aren't able to get it back from the owners, is through elections of all the different legacy products. Do you know how deep that is? Because a high majority of what Marriott sold are weeks, guys. They were the last to go to points. So understand that Aruba is all weeks owners. So until all of those owners decide to say, I'm electing for points, or they trade them in, which they'll never do, right?
So that's where you see those randoms in September for 2 bedrooms available, is those folks who have deposited in interval.
Well, that's interval. That'll be for next week. Yeah, that's what that is. But very few of them take their valuable Marriott week and trade it in for these club points, especially with not the knowledge that they have, right?
It's in-house, right?
Yeah. In-house is trying. That's why you'll read in the forums, they tried to get my week back today. They're never going to get it.
They all say that.
And right now they're going after my deed and saying, oh, the assessment's killing you, isn't it? No. What the hell are you talking about? I enjoy it. I actually, you know what? Thank you, the state of Florida, for doing that. Because now I'm reassured my property is right now, they got guys scaffolding off the side of the building, all the cracks being filled in, the windows were being popped out. I mean, I don't care, right? For a guy who goes down there and understands the property, it's music to my ears, thank you very much. And there is an end to it, right? I'm paying an assessment every year, but it doesn't matter, there's an end to it. And it will end, and I don't care. So it's all perspective of what I feel as an owner. And because I have an option to elect it if I want to go to points. I did once and tried to do some things and had to take what the system gave me. It's okay for me though, because I can work a system, but imagine the ones that are like, need spring break, and they just blindly throw their points in here. Now they're not cooking with bacon grease, you know. Now they're trying to like start the fire like with nothing, with no resources at all. So just knowledge is power, man. And that's why if you're gonna give you if they're gonna have your number and they're gonna call you for advice, make sure you know. Even if you don't own it, I think you should know. If a customer ever calls you and says Aruba, you better know the only true way they're going to Aruba is through interval with some patience. Not really through club points, because most, I think, people would say, yeah, elect it for club points and make a reservation. Well, there is a reason I gave you this account to look into so that you can kind of see there are examples where you just cannot do that. You can't shoot blind, okay? So I hope everybody understands that club points is, or abound, if you will. Yes, it's plentiful, but all under certain circumstances. And a lot of those are controlled by deadlines that customers don't elect right away. So you could go in and start looking for inventory, and then right around that time of election, what do you think the system does? It just explodes with inventory because people start elected like crazy towards September 30th. Don't you think you probably should know that when you're trying to make reservations using club points? Because when do you think you're going to see the best availability for club points? Personally, the closer you get to September 30th for the next year. Get it? You understand where I'm coming from there? Okay. So again, not saying don't use it, not saying that it's a bad thing, but if you're going to sell it, and this is going to be where you're telling your customers just to blindly put their points every year, I think you need to step back and reassess. Not only for availability with villas and the point charts and stuff, but also when they use points for the Explorer collection, the things you talk about, they can't even access. Not only because they don't own enough points, because they don't have executive status. So I don't want to run into consumers on these calls where they even ask me about those things, unless they are a consumer who bought 240,000 points. Because that's the only one actually that could ever say, hey, let's talk about this. Because you know how awkward it is to have that conversation? Everything's going smooth, and then all of a sudden, it's like you're riding your bike and it's perfect, and then out of nowhere, you just get ejected, right? That's what it feels like when you're on a roll, and then all of a sudden someone goes, hey, you get this sinking feeling in your stomach because now you have to tell them, yeah, I'm so sorry. Would you like to buy more? And then you could go. But that's how I explain it. And some know of these companies that do these tours, but do you know that those Colette tours are 20 to 50 grand? So why would a consumer that leaves with a 44,000 option unit ever be able to take one of those experiences, guys? They couldn't bank and borrow enough to get even close to even looking at the reservation. So just be cautious with that section. It is so sexy. If you're telling me right now that if you were sitting in front of me and said, I could do a guided tour of the Great Wall of China, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Well, yeah, Mr. Jones, you can. But that's for later on. And if they say why, say, come on, that trip, if we go to Colette right now and I price that out on cash, what do you think that thing's worth? So if that's what it's worth, what do you think you'd have to own with this to where one set of your points would give you that, you know? And that's what you have to help him realize. Yeah. And believe it or not, even his consumer that bought the 7,000 points isn't going to be able to access even just a fraction of the ones that are in there, because most of them are double that or 20,000 points, right? Be careful. And then, of course, never, ever, ever can a consumer believe that if that trip is 20,000 and they're buying 81,000 options, I only had one that really thought she was going to get 4 of those a year. But you see, here's the thing, logic helps in those cases. It's not like, ma'am, let me just, so you know what that trip is worth because you've priced it out. You know what you paid for this. Come on, man, like, please. And look, it wasn't, just so everyone knows, they weren't told that. You understand what I mean by that? They weren't told that. It was just, you're looking at it and that's what your mind sees. Because I asked the question, were you told that? I just looked at it and logic told me if I buy 81 and that was 20,000 points, I deducted it off and I went home and this is what I...
You should have bought 2.
Well, that was my inside joke. He nailed it, right? I said, well, you didn't buy enough. You should have stole more from us, man, because we had a special going on that one day in the history of time. But you understand what I mean? That software, remember, is designed for Marriott reps to sell club points. And they put in that one section of election. And that's why I don't want you to think that that's because that's how they train and that's how it is during that 4-week period. That's the only way you have to do it. But remember, this is just one of 4 because of the product that they're buying. Okay? Any questions on that? And it's pretty cool. Like you can, like even with, I'll do this too. If you are going to get into cruises, you can use points, cruises, hotels, and more. I'm going to make one suggestion. You do the legwork before you pull this up on any given day, and you guide them only to the ones that I'm going to show you, okay? I'm telling you guys, just be cautious. You just get in a pickle where you'll just have to be explaining your way out. So under the cruise sections, you go to ocean, and now we're going to explore them. Now, third-party website, we're going to a different website. So what's that tell you about points, right? Just for your own psyche. And now there's only really, any first-time buyer that starts with us, guys, there's only really one place you should be playing, and that's right here. Yeah, and this is the one thing I'm going to say. Cruise escapes, unlike our escapes in villas, these actually are pretty cool.
That's the minimum 500 club.
Yeah, that's per person. So, but it's going to lay out the ones that are, and it's just real, and it at least gives the consumer an idea. So look, 750 club points plus 197. Well, I mean, let them be the judge of that. I mean, that's for 2 people, double occupancy. So that's 37,000 points for that cruise. I don't know. I think you can get it cheaper. 1,000 club points. So that's what it is. It's 500 per person. The least expensive ones you're going to see on here will be 1,000. Actually, no, you saw a couple there that were actually 750. So, all right, and then you'll see the ones that get up into 7 nights. They're escapes in their 3,500.
Yeah.
All right. So, not to say don't go in here and look and prepare and screenshot what you want and use it for that purpose alone. But they're not going to be cruising much with this program unless they use escapes. There's not a lot of huge value. Interval with the cruises and the legwork that Brent did and the crew. When Jeff was here, they did a lot of legwork to do exact itineraries to show the savings, and they even found some cash savings of $1,000 on Disney cruising. Okay, so that's kind of cruising. It's easy to do. You just go use points, and then cruises and other, and then you just kind of keep going through, and then use the cruise escapes. And the good thing is they can. I believe now they can use their star options directly to do that stuff. Because there never used to be a Vistana Signature Network member line. It was always just Marriott Vacation Club. So I think that you can do it even without electing if you call. But that's cruising. Any questions on that? Basic cruising? No? All right. Well, who has questions, specific questions about club points or anything?